Okay, let's just jump right into this. We're going to start this deep dive on the pulse of the planet with a number that should honestly stop you in your tracks. Can you believe that statistically, something like 4 children are born every single second around the globe?
It's an incredible number, and that statistic is really the core of what we're talking about today, the sheer velocity of it.
4 per second.
4 per second. That means by the time you finish this next sentence, 20, maybe 25 more people have entered the world.
Wow.
And if you scale that up, just to make it a bit more, well, manageable, the planet is increasing by about 360,000 newborns every single day.
360,000. That's like adding a whole new city, a medium-sized city to the planet every 24 hours.
Every single day. And that scale, that relentless scale, is why scientists have a specific name for this. They call it the population burst.
It's not just growth, it's a burst, an explosion.
Exactly. It's not a slow trend. It's this massive, continuous acceleration. And our mission today is really to grapple with what that means. What challenges does this burst pose to, global stability?
And for you, listening, the goal here is to connect that shocking number to the real-world problems that nations are facing. We want to understand what this constant growth really means for our shared future.
We're moving beyond that big number and getting into the why. Why it causes, frankly, panic in planning ministries all over the world.
Well, let's stick with that speed for a moment because the velocity really changes everything. It's almost an emotional thing when you realize that as we're sitting here talking, that ticker is just running.
It never stops.
It's not some abstract statistic. It is a constant real-time addition to the global,
Well,
the burden on resources.
that's it, exactly. When we say population burst, we're defining it by its acceleration. This isn't some predictable trend you measure over decades.
Right.
It's an ongoing, rapid increase. And the real challenge is that our systems, our infrastructure, which we build slowly, expensively, they're trying to keep pace with a force that just never rests.
So the clock itself starts to feel like a mechanism of strain. Every tick is another demand.
Yes, a physical, material demand. And that feeling is precisely why policymakers are scrambling. They aren't trying to improve systems anymore.
They're just trying to keep them from breaking.
They're desperately trying to prevent them from collapsing under the weight of this constant, immediate growth.
Which brings us to the core question, right? The how. How can any country, especially those with limited resources, possibly sustain this?
That's the billion-dollar goal.
We have to move from how fast to how do we cope.
Well, the sources talk about something we can call the doubling effect. To maintain even the current standard of living, which is often already inadequate, the numbers require essential services to be constantly doubled or even multiplied.
So you're on a treadmill.
A systemic treadmill where just standing still means you're actually falling behind. You have to invest twice as much just to get the same result you had last year.
So let's break that down. The source material points to 3 critical areas under the most pressure. Where are countries playing this constant game of catch-up?
The first, and maybe the most primal, is food. We are talking about sustainable nutrition for millions of new people, year after year.
Right. And it's not just about growing more wheat.
No, it's so much more complex.
If you're adding 360,000 mouths to feed every day, you're putting immediate pressure on arable land, which is finite. You're straining water supplies.
Hugely. Agriculture is incredibly thirsty. And then you have the whole supply chain, getting the food from the field to the plate.
So a government can have a brilliant 5-year plan for agriculture, but the goalposts are always moving.
Always. If your population grows by 100 million in those 5 years, your baseline goal, just feeding everyone, is already out of reach. You're fighting a retreating tide.
Okay, so food stress. That leads directly to the second pressure point, health.
Yes, health. Every new baby needs vaccines, needs maternal care, primary care. The population burst demands more hospitals, more clinics, all staffed and ready to go.
And you can't just build a doctor.
You can't. Building a hospital takes years. Training a specialized nurse or a surgeon takes a decade.
So the human capital side is the real bottleneck.
It's enormous, and you can't skip it. If a nation adds 10 million people a year, they don't just need new buildings. They need hundreds of thousands of new, trained professionals every single year.
And if they fail?
The consequences are immediate. Preventable diseases spread, infant mortality goes up, it's a public health crisis just waiting to happen.
It really feels like this population burst just exposes every single existing weakness in a country's infrastructure.
It accelerates failure. And that brings us to the third one, which has maybe the most crucial long-term impact.
Clues.
Schools. This is where you see the stress on the next generation. We're talking about building maybe 50 new schools a month in some places just to keep up.
Just to tread water.
You have to find the land, the funding, manage construction, and then the hardest part, recruit and train thousands of qualified teachers.
And if you can't,
If you
fail there.
You're essentially creating a future of unskilled labor. You get a massive population that's ill-equipped for the modern economy. It's an economic time bomb.
So this doubling effect, it's not just a cost, it's a guarantee of underdevelopment if growth outpaces the budget.
It forces nations into a constant cycle of crisis management, always fixing yesterday's problems instead of building for tomorrow.
Okay, this is where it gets, for me, really interesting. Because if this growth was uniform everywhere, it would still be a huge challenge.
A logistical nightmare, but a consistent one.
Right, but it's not. The source material calls it a terrifying difference in birth rates across the globe.
And this disparity changes everything. It's what makes the problem so much more complex.
So just how wide is this gap?
It's massive. You have some countries seeing birth rates that might hit 10 children born per second.
10 per second.
10 per second. And at the same time, you have other nations, often developed ones, seeing rates of less than 1 child per second. Some are even in decline.
The world is literally growing at different speeds. You have these demographic fast lanes and slow lanes.
Exactly. And that puts an incredible strain on global cooperation. How do you manage resource distribution or climate change or migration when the pressure is so concentrated in the areas that are least equipped to handle it?
We tend to think that our future problems will come from technology or, geopolitics.
Right.
But the source suggests the biggest challenges will just be from us.
It's from sheer numbers.
This is the most sobering prediction in the entire deep dive. The material finds that half of the upcoming challenges humanity will face, half, will be due to this uneven population increase, not from technology.
Wait, say that again? Half of our problems will have nothing to do with technology.
Nothing to do with advances or failures in technology.
That feels so counterintuitive today. We're always told that innovation AI, green energy, that's what will save us. And it might solve the other half of our problems. But technology can't create more fresh water out of thin air. It can't create infinite land.
It's a resource management problem, not a code problem.
Precisely. And it can't solve the political problem of one country doubling its population while its neighbor shrinks. No app is going to fix the migration pressure or the resentment that comes from that.
So, for you listening, the key takeaway here is twofold. First, the incredible scale of daily growth. But second, and maybe more importantly, is how uneven that growth is.
And that this unevenness creates problems that are fundamentally non-technological. This is the engine of future instability, and it's a massive blind spot for a lot of developed nations.
It shifts the focus from engineering to governance. The solutions have to be about policy, about cooperation.
It forces us to think about stability in terms of carrying capacity, a much more brutal metric than just economic potential.
So as we wrap this up, the sheer velocity of this population burst is the thing that sticks with me. 4 kids a second, 360,000 a day. A relentless, unequal strain on food, health, and schools.
It's a race where the finish line keeps moving.
And some runners are starting miles behind.
And if we accept this idea that half of our future problems are non-technological, that they're rooted just in human numbers, it leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought.
Go on.
If technology isn't the answer for half our problems, what has to fundamentally change about how we live? Our relationship with consumption, with sustainability, with each other. If the crisis is simply one of too many people in too little shared space, how does global cooperation have to evolve just to survive the challenge of the next billion? That's something for you to consider as you digest this deep dive.